G'day guys, welcome to today's video review of 2020 Best Picture Academy Award nominee, Parasite. Before we start, I'll just say that later in the movie the four main characters are given English names, but I'll use these from the start so it makes it easier to follow. It starts in the lounge of a family home in a semi-basement house. A young boy, Kevin, is trying to use his mobile phone when he comments there's no Wi-Fi, that the lady upstairs has put a password on it. He wanders through the house telling members of his family who offer suggestions. The dad, Mr. Kim, advises how to get Wi-Fi, and Kevin and his sister Jessica pick up a connection to the local cafe in the corner of the bathroom. The whole family is unemployed and clearly poor. They all fold pizza boxes for money and are clearly not doing a very good job. Cut to the pizza representative at the door complaining about the poor quality of the family's pizza box folding work. 1 out of every 4 boxes is rejected, so they dock their pay 10%. Kevin tries to scam a job at the pizza place to no avail. They get paid for the boxes. The next scene, the family is sitting around the table and the dad is saying, "We're gathered here today to celebrate the reconnection of our phones and bountiful Wi-Fi." Kevin's friend Min comes in carrying a wooden box. In the wooden box is a gift from Min's grandfather to the family, which is a landscape stone. It's a piece of rock which is said to bring good fortune to families. Min and Kevin go to the local shop to have a drink and a chat. It turns out that Min is about to leave to go overseas to study. Min and Kevin have been mates since military service. Min went on to college where Kevin didn't. Min then offers Kevin to take over English tutoring for the young rich girl that he's currently doing it for while he goes overseas to study. All Kevin has to do is to pretend to be a college-graduated English tutor. Kevin gets his sister Jessica to use her Photoshop skills to forge some documents stating that he's college graduated, and he goes for an interview with the rich family. The house is designed by a famous architect and is huge and modern. The housekeeper has been there since the previous owner, which was the famous architect. He meets the madam of the house, who says she doesn't care about the docs, as he was referred by Min. The rich mum sits in on his first lesson with her daughter, and he does a convincing job of sounding intellectual. She tells him she'll pay him the same time every month, 3 classes a week, 2 hours each class. She decides to call him Kevin at this point, as she's introducing him officially to the housekeeper. Their conversation is interrupted, though, by her youngest son, who's firing suction cup-tipped arrows at them. He's a disturbed young boy who's currently obsessed with Native Americans, and he's also a frustrated artist. Kevin sees an opportunity to continue the scam and conflates a story about an art therapist teacher that he knows that would be great for her son. She's convinced and wants to meet this wonderful teacher. The next day, Kevin brings his sister to the door, introducing her as Jessica, the art therapist. Kevin goes upstairs to do his English lesson with the daughter, while Jessica is introduced to the young boy. This time, though, Jessica tells the rich mum that she doesn't teach while anybody else is in the room and she'll have to wait outside, and she'll decide whether or not she's going to take on her son as a client. The rich mum is anxious to see what the result is and goes upstairs and sees that Jessica is teaching her son and he's sitting very nice and quietly. She's very surprised and starts to talk to Jessica about the opportunity of taking the position full time. They come to terms after she proposes a very high rate, and then the rich dad comes home, meets with Jessica and instructs his driver to give her a lift home. The driver's a young man and he tries to flirt with Jessica, and she says she's meeting her boyfriend that shuts it all down. Then she takes her panties off and leaves them in the back seat of the limo. The next scene, the whole family are at a buffet and the kids are talking about moving the plan to the next level. Jessica says that she's already set a trap in the limo. They're laughing about how Jessica Googled arts therapy and then ad-libbed the rest, and that the rich mum fell for the whole thing. Cut to the rich dad in the limo, finding Jessica's underwear under the seat. He looks suspiciously at the driver. When he returns to his wife, he tells her that the driver's crossed the line and he's got to be let go quietly. Jessica's been hiding behind the wall listening to their conversation. The rich mum and Jessica then talk, and Jessica uses this opportunity to suggest that an older driver may be better. Of course, she has her own dad in mind for this. And the rich mum agrees. She's interested to meet an older driver, of course, recommended by Jessica. After brushing up on the latest features of limos at the local Mercedes dealership, the next scene is Mr. Kim picking up the rich dad from work and saying and doing all the right things to gain his trust. Kevin and Jessica now turn their attention to the housekeeper. Kevin discovers from the girl that he tutors that the housekeeper has an allergy to the fur on Peaches and will break out in a rash. Kevin then scrapes the fur off some Peaches and carefully sprinkles some on the back of her neck when she's not looking. Intercut that between the family planning their next step and the plan being put into place. Mr. Kim then convinces the rich mum that he saw the housekeeper at the hospital when he was there for his annual checkup and heard her on the phone telling someone that she has tuberculosis. When they arrive back at the housekeeper is coughing into a tissue as Jessica's put more peach fur on her in the meantime. Mr. Kim goes to the bin and quickly pours red hot sauce on the tissue that she's just used, making it look as if she's coughing up blood. The rich wife then confides in Mr. Kim that she'll have to let the housekeeper go. The rich dad laments the fact that the housekeeper had to quit, as that's all his wife told him, with Mr. Kim the driver. Mr. Kim suggests a business that'll help him find a veteran-grade housekeeper for VIPs and gives him a business card. He gives the business card to his wife to call. Jessica answers the phone, pretending to be the CEO, and tells the rich mum that she'll need to provide some documents to join this exclusive membership service. The next scene is Mrs. Kim, the mum, now working in the house as the housekeeper. Soon enough, the rich family are going away for a camping trip for their son's birthday. As soon as they're gone, the whole family is now lounging around their house, taking advantage of the free facilities. They're now sitting around the lounge, drinking the rich family's alcohol. They start discussing how gullible but nice the rich family is, when suddenly the doorbell rings. The family panics and Mrs. Kim goes to the door. It's the old housekeeper. The old housekeeper says that she left something downstairs and's just come to collect it. In the basement, there's a secret door that leads down to an underground bunker. What she's left behind was her husband, who's been living down there for 4 years. Loan sharks are after him for debts, so she brought him down there in between owners. The current owners are unaware that there even is a bunker in their house, as the architect never mentioned it. Mrs. Kim is threatening to call the police, while the old housekeeper is begging her to let her husband stay. The rest of the family, who've been eavesdropping from around the corner, come into view, and suddenly the old housekeeper pulls out her phone and holds it up and starts filming them. She's using her mobile phone like a gun, aiming it at them, threatening to press send to the madam and exposing them all for the scammers that they are. A fight ensues over the phone, with the family wrestling it back and deleting the video just as the home phone rings. It's the rich family. They're 8 minutes away down the road as the camping trip was rained out. They drag the old housekeeper and her husband downstairs into the bunker and tie them up. They run around the house trying to clean up the mess that they've made, and they clean up and hide just as the rich family arrive home. The old housekeeper, with her wrist tied behind her back, runs upstairs and tries to escape. Mrs. Kim realises and kicks her back down the stairs, where she hits her head on a concrete wall and it knocks her out. The rest of the family are hiding under the coffee table, and the young son runs outside and decides he's going to sleep in his Indian teepee in the backyard. The rich mum and dad decide that they'll sleep in the lounge so that they can watch over the teepee in the backyard. The rich dad then tells his wife how Mr. Kim smells like he just walked off a subway, and they start to discuss it, while the rest of the family lie under the coffee table listening. Once the rich couple have fallen asleep, Kevin, Jessica and Mr. Kim sneak out and head home. to discover that it's been flooded along with the rest of their street. They try to salvage something from their house, and Kevin finds the lucky rock. They end up spending the night in a refuse centre or a gym, sleeping on the floor with all the other displaced people from the flood. The next day, the rich mum calls Jessica to invite her for lunch for an impromptu birthday party for the young son, as his camping trip was cancelled from the night before. Mr. Kim and Kevin are also contacted individually, and Kevin is still clinging to the lucky rock from the night before. At the house, Mrs. Kim is preparing the food, while Mr. Kim and the rich dad are in the backyard dressing as Native Americans for a surprise for the son's birthday. The rich mum tells Jessica that she's to bring out the birthday cake to the young son as it's part of his art therapy. Meanwhile, Kevin sneaks down to the bunker, still clinging his rock, and drops it down the stairs by accident. When he goes to retrieve it, the crazed old housekeeper's husband puts a noose around his neck, grabs him, and then smashes his head in with the rock. Kevin's lying on the floor with a head wound with blood gushing from his head when the crazed old housekeeper's husband decides for good measure to drop the rock on his head one more time before he heads upstairs. He wanders through the house and grabs a knife from the kitchen. He goes outside, and as Jessica's just about to present the young boy with the birthday cake, he runs up and stabs her in the chest. Mrs. Kim runs and attacks the old housekeeper husband with a hammer. While she's on the ground being slashed, Kevin is being dragged out of the house by the young girl that he tutors. Mr. Kim is trying to help Jessica on the ground, and he suddenly realises that it's all falling apart. The rich dad is screaming at Mr. Kim to throw him the car keys. He only cares about himself and his family, wanting to just get away. Mr. Kim sees his wife, son and daughter are all bleeding out on the ground. He picks up a knife and blankly stabs the rich dad dead in the heart. He looks around at everybody and then bolts. We now cut to a month later, and Kevin is waking up in hospital with head injuries, being read his Miranda rights. We then cut to court, where he and his mum receive a probation for fraud and extortion, etc. Jessica is dead, and Mr. Kim is on the run. The police trail Kevin and his mum for a while in the hopes of finding the whereabouts of Mr. Kim, which they don't know, and after a while, the police give up. Turns out that Mr. Kim is now living in the underground bunker, as he snuck back down there after he bolted out of the party. The final bit is Kevin's dream of telling his father that he's got a new plan, he's going to go to college, get a proper job, save up heaps of money, buy that house, and then when he and his mum move in, Mr. Kim can just walk upstairs. So Parasite was a fantastic film. Considering I was reading the movie with the English subtitles, I was so engaged with the characters and the plot after the first 30 minutes that I just couldn't wait to see more. This was an original screenplay with original characters and an original story, which it feels like it's something that we haven't seen for a long time. It was shot and edited beautifully, and the locations were all chosen with artistic care. It's always great to see somewhere other than a US city for a change, and the locations in Parasite are great. After Kevin and Jessica got in with the rich family, I was so keen to see how are they going to get their mum and dad in there, but I could never have foreseen the twist with the old housekeeper's husband living in the bunker under the house. It was also really interesting that this was explained as, of course, many rich houses in Seoul have bunkers, as they could be attacked by North Korea at any minute. That sort of constant threat is something that was not highlighted or focused on, but brushed off as a day-to-day thing. There's some really cool dark humour, like we're all gathered here today to give thanks for our phones being reconnected, which made me laugh out loud. I really loved this movie and highly recommend it. I can certainly see why it's already received a lot of accolades, like winning last year's Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, and I wouldn't be surprised if it wins Best Picture at the Oscars this year, although we know there's some stiff competition, that's for sure. my rating for Parasite is 9 out of 10 stars. Thanks for watching today's video, guys. As always, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.